Millions of Americans poured into the streets on June 14th, unified by a single message: no kings. In more than 2,100 cities, from New York to Los Angeles and Seattle, this unprecedented protest movement marked one of the largest coordinated demonstrations in modern U.S. history. The timing was no coincidence. It aligned with President Donald Trump's 79th birthday and a major military parade in Washington, D.C., commemorating the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. But behind the banners, chants, and sheer scale of participation lies a deeper story about America's democratic crossroads, growing political division, and urgent questions about the nation's future. The No Kings protest was organized by the grassroots 55001 Coalition, a movement that began just months ago with a single Reddit post and quickly captured the national imagination. Backed by organizations such as the ACLU and Planned Parenthood, the coalition drew support from a wide range of Americans. Veterans concerned about the symbolism of military parades, families worried for their children's future, and Gen Z activists demanding that the U.S. live up to its democratic ideals. What started as an online conversation grew into a powerful mobilization, culminating in a day when over 5 million people took to the streets in peaceful solidarity. The central message of No Kings is a critique of what many see as growing executive overreach and creeping authoritarianism in American government. The slogan itself is a pointed reminder of the nation's origins, a rejection of monarchy and unchecked power. Protesters voiced concerns about what they described as the militarization of government institutions, attacks on civil liberties, and the erosion of democratic norms. This moment, they said, was about defending the foundational principles that have long defined the United States. While the majority of events were peaceful, the day was not without tension and tragedy. In Los Angeles, police deployed tear gas to disperse crowds after isolated confrontations flared. Portland saw violent clashes between demonstrators and law enforcement, echoing past unrest in the city. In Texas, credible threats prompted the evacuation of the state capital, and one individual was arrested in connection with the incident. The most somber note came from Minnesota, where a politically motivated shooting left a state representative and her husband dead. This tragedy led to the cancellation of planned rallies in the state and heightened concerns about the safety of democratic participation itself. The vast scope and unified branding of the No Kings protests set them apart from past demonstrations. Rarely has the nation witnessed such coast-to-coast coordination, with millions rallying under a single slogan. From small towns to major cities, marchers carried signs referencing both historical documents and current events, quoting the Declaration of Independence, warning against tyranny, and demanding transparency and accountability from elected officials. Political scientists and historians point out that the No Kings movement mirrors global protests against authoritarianism in countries as diverse as Hungary, Brazil, and Hong Kong. But the American context is unique. The protests come at a time of deep political polarization, with trust in institutions at a historic low. The demonstrations were not just a response to one administration, but to a broader anxiety about democracy under strain. Many participants described a fear that the checks and balances enshrined in the Constitution are weakening, and that the line between patriotism and partisanship is becoming dangerously blurred. The government's response underscored these anxieties. Governors in states like Texas and Virginia deployed National Guard units, citing concerns over public safety. Critics argued that such measures risked escalating tensions and infringing on the right to peaceful assembly. For many, the sight of armored vehicles and troops in the streets reinforced the very fears that motivated the protests, a sense that America's commitment to open debate and civil liberties is being tested. Voices from the protests painted a complex picture of hope and concern. Veterans spoke out against the use of military symbolism in domestic politics. "I serve to defend the Constitution, not to see it used as a backdrop for political theater," said one Marine Corps veteran in Washington, D.C. Families marched with young children, holding signs that read, "Democracy for our kids," and "No Kings, no Crowns." Gen Z activists used social media to amplify their message. coordinating actions in real time and sharing stories from the ground. The impact of the No Kings movement is already being felt in the political arena. Experts warn that while such protests are largely symbolic, the sheer size and coordination of this action could pressure lawmakers and shape the upcoming midterm elections. Issues of civil liberties, voting rights, and the limits of executive authority are now front and center in the national conversation. Lawmakers from both parties are being pressed to clarify their positions and respond to the concerns of millions. Beyond immediate politics, the protests have sparked a broader reckoning about what it means to be American in 2025. The country finds itself at a crossroads, caught between competing visions of leadership, citizenship, and the role of government. For some, the protests are a vital defense of democracy. For others, they reflect and even deepen existing divisions. The debate over No Kings is not just about one day or one administration. It's about the long-term health of American democracy and the willingness of ordinary citizens to stand up for their rights. As the dust settles, the question remains: where does the movement go from here? Organizers are already planning future actions, focusing on voter registration drives, civic education, and policy advocacy. Meanwhile, the nation waits to see how elected officials and institutions will respond to this powerful public outcry. What do you think? Is No Kings the voice of a generation defending democracy, or is it fueling division? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe to stay tuned with NewsPulse 24H for informed, in-depth reporting.